All right, everyone. The neoliberal media is trying to tell the Democrats in Congress, hey, your plan actually sucks. And I think that they're wise to do this. Like you see from ABC, CNN, or the New York Times, that lexicon of the neoliberal corporate propaganda apparatus. They're getting worried. And they're getting worried because of this. The Democrats' strategy at this point appears to be, by dragging the court system in, it's become more evident, by forcing Trump to continue enforcing deferred action, even though there's no real legal precedent for them to do that. The Supreme Court will definitely knock it down and rule in Trump's favor, but I think what's happening here, the Democrats right now appear to be hedging their bets on winning the immigration issue, on winning big enough in the midterms so that they no longer have to negotiate with Trump. They can either freeze him out, or they can force him into a deal where he's getting peanuts. Okay, Trump, you can get like 1/10 of your wall. We get DACA back, and we get some amnesty, and we get, you can't deport people, and we get, fire those extra immigration officials. And they'd basically be stacking the deck against him. And trying to run roughshod over the Republicans like they have in the past. They tried to browbeat people like Boehner, who are weak, into siding with them through emotional arguments, because they know that it bodes well for center leftists within the country. They're very emotional people. They're not very logical people. They don't have an understanding of strategy generally, which is why they have lost against Trump. And they'll continue to lose, I think. But that strategy is asinine, because if you look at the midterm map, if you look at the rough projections, even with a deficit for the Republicans, they still maintain certainly the House. They almost certainly maintain the Senate. Trump is still the president. Nothing really has changed. The fact that the Democrats may be able to close the gap in the House isn't really going to help them. If Congress is still controlled by Republicans, they're not going to get their way. They're still going to have to negotiate. How long do they think they can hold off? With people worried about the future of, people who they may be in association with under the DREAM Act. How much longer do you think the Democrats can hold off? At some point, the lay Democrats will join the corporate media in declaring to the Democrats, just pass something already. Protect as many people as you can. If you have to give Trump his wall, who fucking cares? That's eventually what they're probably going to say. As Trump continues to use money as his main campaign strategy and fixate on that, the media is having a meltdown. They won't even they haven't reported on the economy in a good long time to any great degree. They're too busy talking about Haiti and all of these other things. They are deliberately at this point engaged in propaganda. I can tell you for an absolute certainty, most of these stories are no longer even close to truth, and the people peddling them know they are doing it willfully. It's not, hey, a source told us something and we're reporting on it and they get duped. It's now, there is no source at all. It is a literally fake news story. Trump is fighting back, I believe, tomorrow with his fake news awards ceremony. He's going to have a little speech. Maybe he'll give out little trophies. That is probably going to work with some segments of the population. It has become conspicuous that there is no positive coverage whatsoever of any aspect of what's going on in this country. There were times, for instance, under Obama, even news orders that had people, pundits or whatever, that declared him to be a socialist, that declared him to be treasonous scum. There were still people on those networks that would at the same time say, yeah, but at least something went well. The Cuba deal's stable. At least an Iran deal is being attempted. The economy, we're not hemorrhaging jobs anymore. And so maybe there are fewer problems than some of the alarmists suggest. So there was at least a little bit of fairness at times. Even at the worst, in the darkest hour from the most anti-Obama networks, you occasionally got that story that would say, yeah, but here's something he did that we consider noble. Bush, same thing. Even after Katrina, his approvals were like, 30 or 20 or even 25% at the time. He's still getting the occasional fluff piece. There's no such coverage for Trump anywhere in the lamestream media. It simply doesn't exist. It doesn't exist on Fox. It doesn't exist. Certainly, it's not going to be from CNN or MSNBC. These people have an actual moral level of hatred against him. So I don't blame him, really, for coming out hitting against them. And really, their fear and anger towards him is mostly because he scoops them on Twitter. It's profit motive. Because people then, they can see it from the president himself, and it's more exciting. Maybe he even engages with them sporadically, as opposed to reading a secondhand write-up about something that Trump said, on a news story. And so they don't even really cover his tweets for the most part anymore unless they can spin it as something that somehow embarrassed the United States. The Democrats, though, are fooling themselves if they think that they can hold out, wait until after the midterms, get rid of Trump, and tax people more, and, you know, grant blanket amnesty, and magically everything gets better because Trump is shoved to the sidelines. No, that would probably embolden them even more. Because if you had a Democratic Congress, then they could take the blame. By the way, if you're convinced, as Krugman and a lot of the left-leaning economists are, that the bubble's about to pop, why on earth would you want to be saddled with it by being in control of Congress? Trump will turn around and say, oh, things were going fine until these Democrats got in here. Kick them back out. Maybe we can solve these problems. And by the way, he'll obstruct you, and you won't be able to stabilize the economy, and you'll continue to largely take the blame for it. Meanwhile, in the Rust Belt, where there has been some extra recovery, Trump will soar to easy victory in 2020. Now, he would be victorious. He's Donald Trump. Nobody's going to associate him unless they're far left. Unless they've been poisoned the well mode propagandized towards. They're not going to believe that somebody like Donald Trump is responsible for such an economic failure. I can already see it now. The Democrats would probably tie it in to like Atlantic City. It's, oh, Trump's second Atlantic City is in the swamps of D.C. Trump said he would drain it. Instead, he's bringing in a cesspit. Or, you know, some stupid catchphrase bullshit. As far as DACA, though, goes, I told you, Trump's using it as a leverage. In negotiations, he's probably happy that the court is kicking the can. Because now he can continue those negotiations and continue putting pressure on the Democrats. The Democrats still don't realize the majority of the U.S. population does not support blanket amnesty. It doesn't support continuing the policies of Obama on immigration. Look, certain policies of Obama were more popular. Handouts and things. The Cuba deal. Maybe the Iran deal, some of these things. They were more popular than others. At this point, the ACA, because the Republicans fudged it so badly, they fumbled so badly. You know, it's like a football team, they get to the playoffs, and then all of a sudden the other team scores, 10 times, and they basically just lay down and die on the field. I don't really care about sports, so maybe an odd analogy for me, but it's apt considering the season. Who gives a fuck? If you look at what the Republicans did, they screwed their main selling point. Like, their first selling point was the ACA repeal, and they fucked that up. Now they're never going to get it accomplished. Like, the ACA is just going to continue being around at this point. I hate to tell people that, but your dreams of repealing the ACA are basically dead. Yeah, maybe a 5% chance that you can actually repeal. The Republicans would have to gain support in the Senate and the House, which probably won't happen. They're probably going to lose a bit of support in the House. They might gain a seat or two in the Senate, which is, the death knell for the Democrats as a dynamic party until 2020. But the Republicans aren't going to magically solve that problem either. So the big next runner-up, what are the two big runner-ups from the ACA? Taxes and immigration. That forms the trifecta of everything that Trump ran on. The Republicans really need to solidify behind him on the immigration issue. You already have the votes necessary to do what you need to do. Why don't you do it? It's possible. Then why don't you put more pressure on them? Instead, they're too busy bickering with each other, like Jeff Flake coming out to say, well, and he's a Republican. Well, I condemn the Trump fake news awards. It's like he's like Joseph Stalin. Okay, so when corporations begin lying openly and blatantly about somebody, you shouldn't point that out because it's an attack on the First Amendment. What about those of us exercising our First Amendment rights to increasingly massive audiences online, largely telling you you're full of shit? Telling you that look, it's my First Amendment right to say CNN's full of shit. The Wall Street Journal is falsifying information, probably doesn't even have a source, just to attack Trump because the media is tired of him tweeting and scooping the lame stream. They want him to sit down and give interviews and talk on television and not do the Twitter thing. Well, fuck him. Who gives a fuck? Who pays for Jeff Flake, I wonder? Who donated in the last few campaigns he ran? I bet it'd be an interesting list of multinational corporations and companies that are subsidiaries of the same. Have to talk about that probably later today. And maybe I'll just wait till tomorrow and just cover the fake news awards. That'd be more funny. But yeah, as predicted, finally you're seeing cracks begin to appear in the otherwise hegemonic facade of the neoliberal corporate media. it's beginning to buckle a little bit under pressure because they're realizing something that a lot of the Democratic politicians don't. A Democratic politician who's like from a safe blue district probably doesn't want to tackle the immigration issue. Somebody who's vulnerable, though, in the lead up to the midterms might actually need to talk about it a little bit. Could be a problem, a sore spot for the Democrats. And like I said, like I predicted, it's going to be used as negotiating leverage. Trump may be willing to grant like, oh yeah, okay, I'll step out of your way and give like a 3 or 6 month DACA extension, but I expect something from you. I expect part of the wall funding. Or I expect you to crack down on just this specific sanctuary state that's going further than the others or something. And he'll make a big show of it and tell his fans, hey, I'm making America great again. I'm doing the thing that I need to do, that you hired me to do, and that'll play well to them. At the same time, they'll say, okay, we're still negotiating. It's going to take a while, even master negotiator-in-chief himself can't get things done instantly. You actually have to work with Congress. That's about all. Peace out.